I'm just gonna start now, and then I'll quote-unquote edit stuff. For settings in this game, you probably want the FOV as much as possible to not get sick. You want mouse smoothing off. You want sprint inversion on, that is actually important. And the sound is very annoying, so turn it to nothing. For controls, you can't really rebind, and for settings, just turn everything to the lowest. If you have a 144 Hz monitor and a good graphics card, then turning vertical sync on at 60 FPS might be a good idea, because that actually means it would put your game to 144 FPS. It is actually hard capped to something lower than that for some reason, but just for demonstrations I'm going to put it as off. It doesn't matter, it doesn't make the game physics different. So I'm gonna start by trying to explain movement. This is just a mock-up snowboard I have right now. This is the second level. It's probably the most open and easiest to learn movement on. I'm just gonna get out here to show you, but you can notice that I'm panning with my camera. I'm looking to my sides. I'm just gonna go. So the movement tech, we call it crabbing. It is pressing space, looking 90 degrees to a direction, and then hold A and W if you looked right. So something like that, and then panning backwards again. Jump, look, AW, pan back. The really important part is the amount of speed you get by doing this depends on how fast and smoothly you pan the camera. So if you do it fast, you don't get much at all. And if you do it slowly, you get more. But it depends on where you are, maybe what level it is, we're not sure. And what upgrades you have, because there's the upgrade later in the game, which gives you more movement speed. So that's the basic movement, and you want to string them together. So right now I don't have the movement speed upgrade, and yeah, so you want to jump, and out of a jump you want to flick your camera and do that. You don't want to go over 90 degrees to either side. So if I want to go right now, I look to the left, I hold W and D, I let go of D at the end. And that's how movement works. But it's a lot more involved than it looks by my explanation, and it has a lot of nuance to it, which is what makes the game really cool. To do this fast, there are other ways to gain speed as well. The mainly running downhill. So always try to land somewhere and then turn to run downhill. Because if you're always running downhill, you will never lose speed. Something important with movement speed and how that works. When you play the game, you will notice that if you have a lot of speed, you can run on the ground without losing the speed for a while. How that timer for you losing the movement speed is tied to how much speed you have. But this speed has a movement speed cap, so that's sort of a lie. It's actually the game measures what your movement speed would have been if there was no cap, and that drains when you're not gaining movement speed anymore. So if you have a lot of speed, you can run on the ground for a long time. So right now I don't have a lot. I can run on the ground for about 4 seconds, 3 seconds or something. But if I gain a lot of speed and have a lot of speed for a long time, the game will start thinking that, okay, if there was no movement speed cap in the game, or at least this part of the game, you get a higher cap later, then it will let your movement speed when you're not gaining movement speed persist for a longer time. That might be a bit harder to understand, but it's true. So I should have a decent amount of movement speed now, and you can see that it kept going longer. And when you get the movement speed upgrade and have a string of good tricks, then you will notice it even more. You can run on the ground for quite a while without losing the movement speed you've gained. So that's running downhill, and that's crabbing. Another really important thing is, if you notice, if I jump while running downhill, I get some height, I get a decent amount of height, but if I jump while going uphill, I fly a lot farther, which is really important, and it's a big part of the run in general. And it's not only on upward slopes alone, it's certain upward slopes that are even better than other ones. And in general, if you look at like runs, you can see that people get like insane height from certain spots, and that's because they do it on a certain geometry that we've found that makes it good. Another thing to note, because the panning depends on how fast you do it with your mouse, it's very unlikely that you will be in the same situation twice in a run, which means that you will always like land on a different spot. So you always have to like micromanage where you're gonna land and what good slopes are next to you. You have to know, like I can use this slope to get over there, for example, or okay, I can land here, and that means I can run uphill for this amount of seconds and then do a jump. Things like this is really important to getting consistency, because it's tied to the movement speed of your mouse, or not movement speed, the panning speed of your mouse. It's probably impossible to do it perfectly unless you're the Red Sock. So that's why, like, you can always land on a different spot, and there will always be like minute changes you have to do to make stuff work. Yeah, so what we're doing here, that's the skip for the second level. I'll do levels individually later, but that's the rundown on the movement. Run downhill to gain speed. While in the air and jumping, do crabs. That's the panning camera trick, and the no-board should show what you should be doing to do that correctly. Yeah, so that's movement, very abridged in Valley.